Hi, I'm Dr.Mohammadipour from Mashhad University of Medical Sciences. Lesson topics of this file are limbic lobe and blood supply of the cortex. First, let's see the limbic lobe. As I said in previous lessons, this lobe consists of the subcallosal area, the cingulate gyrus, the parahippocampal gyrus, and the hippocampal formation. The hippocampal formation is not seen in this slide because it's located in depth of the parahippocampal gyrus. Okay, and if you cut and remove the parahippocampal gyrus, you can expose you can see the hippocampal formation. Here is a subcallosal area located below the corpus callosum. This structure is the corpus callosum, right? And this area is located inferior or below the corpus callosum, and because of that it's called the subcallosal area. Remember that corpus callosum contains 4 portions or 4 parts, and this part of the corpus callosum is called rostrum. Here is the rostrum of the corpus callosum, so we can say the subcallosal area is located below the or inferior to the rostrum of the corpus callosum, and this structure is the lamina terminal. As you see, the subcallosal area is located just in front of the lamina terminal. This area contains the 2 gyri, one gyrus, this gyrus and this gyrus. Okay, this gyrus, the posterior gyrus, which is located the paraterminal gyrus, and this gyrus is called the paraolfactory gyrus. As you see, the paraterminal gyrus and paraolfactory gyrus are separated by a sulcus. This sulcus between 2 gyri is the posterior paraolfactory sulcus, because it's located posterior to the paraolfactory gyrus, right? And this sulcus is the anterior paraolfactory sulcus. So remember that the subcallosal area contains the paraterminal gyrus, paraolfactory gyrus, posterior paraolfactory sulcus, and the anterior paraolfactory sulcus. Here is the cingulate gyrus, another part of the limbic lobe, and as you see, the cingulate gyrus is a long gyrus in close relation with the corpus callosum, and these 2 structures, the corpus callosum and the cingulate gyrus, are separated by the callosal sulcus. This sulcus between the corpus callosum and cingulate gyrus is the callosal sulcus, or the sulcus of the corpus callosum. This sulcus is the cingulate sulcus. So remember that we've got a cingulate gyrus and a cingulate sulcus, and the cingulate sulcus separates the cingulate gyrus from the medial frontal gyrus and also from the paracentral lobule, and as you see, the posterior end of the cingulate sulcus becomes continuous with the marginal sulcus. This is marginal sulcus just behind the paracentral lobule. you must be able to find these structures on the MRI sections. This slide shows a sagittal section from brain MRI, and here you can find or you can see the corpus callosum. This part is the rostrum of the corpus callosum, and this area is the subcallosal area. Okay, the cingulate gyrus and the callosal sulcus between the corpus callosum and cingulate gyrus, and this sulcus is the cingulate sulcus, which separates the cingulate gyrus from the medial frontal gyrus and from the paracentral lobule. And as I said, the posterior end of the cingulate sulcus becomes continuous with the marginal sulcus. This sulcus is the marginal sulcus behind the paracentral lobule. This gyrus is the parahippocampal gyrus, another part of the limbic lobe. This gyrus is located on the inferior surface of the hemisphere and is separated from the medial occipitotemporal gyrus by the collateral sulcus. The sulcus is the collateral sulcus between the parahippocampal gyrus and medial occipitotemporal gyrus. As you see, a part of this gyrus is located on the occipital lobe, and a part of that is located in the temporal lobe, and because of that it's called the occipitotemporal gyrus. Look at the anterior end of the parahippocampal gyrus. The anterior end of the parahippocampal gyrus is built like a hook and is called the uncus, or uncus of the parahippocampus. This part, the uncus of the parahippocampal gyrus, contains the amygdala. Amygdala is an important nucleus within the uncus, and if you peel away or if you cut the uncus, you will expose or you will see the amygdala. Amygdala means almond, because it's a nucleus similar in shape to a almond, and because of that it's called amygdala. So remember that this nucleus, the amygdala, is located within the uncus of the parahippocampal gyrus. This slide shows the hippocampal formation. Hippocampal formation contains different parts, including the hippocampal gyrus or hippocampus and the dentate gyrus. This is dentate gyrus, and here is dentate gyrus. Each hemisphere has a hippocampal gyrus and a dentate gyrus. Okay, dentate gyrus. Oh, it's important to remember that this gyrus, this must not be confused with the parahippocampal gyrus. Okay, we have a parahippocampal gyrus and a hippocampal gyrus, and hippocampal gyrus is located in depth of the parahippocampal gyrus, and as I said, if you cut and remove the parahippocampal gyrus, you can see the hippocampal gyrus. This gyrus is the hippocampal gyrus or hippocampus. Okay, the hippocampal formation is located within the lateral ventricle. This is the space around the hippocampal gyrus is the lateral ventricle, containing CSF or cerebral spinal fluid. The hippocampal gyrus or hippocampus is a gyrus about 5 centimeters in length, and medially, as you see, is related to the dentate gyrus, and anteriorly the hippocampal gyrus or hippocampus is related to the amygdala. Okay, amygdala is located just in front of the hippocampus. The nerve fibers on the hippocampal gyrus converge to form a structure named fimberia. This structure is fimberia, which is formed from the nerve fibers, from axons. Okay, and each hemisphere has one fimberia. This is the right fimberia, and this one is the left fimberia. Okay, and as you see, posterior end of the fimberia becomes continuous with the fornix. This structure is fornix, and fornix like fimberia is formed from nerve fibers. Okay, each fornix contains 3 parts, including the crus. Here is the crus of the fornix, body, and column, which the column is not seen in this slide. So we can say the fimberia becomes continuous with the crus of the fornix, and crus of the fornix becomes continuous with the body of the cornix, body of the fornix. Okay, and here, as you see, there is a connection between the right fornix and the left fornix. This connection is called the commissure of the fornix, or hippocampal commissure. Commissure of fornix or hippocampal commissure, because this structure, this commissure, connects the hippocampus of the 2 sides to each other. Okay, if we have a mid-sagittal section from this region, we can see the body of the fornix on the medial surface, just below the corpus callosum. Okay, this structure below the, or inferior to the corpus callosum, is the body of the fornix. And here we've got the septum pellucidum between the corpus callosum and body of the fornix. As I said, hippocampal gyrus or hippocampus is located in the inferior horn of the lateral ventricle. This space around the hippocampus is the inferior horn of the lateral ventricle. Each brain contains one lateral ventricle. Ventricles are a series of cavity interior to the brain. Okay, and the brain has 2 lateral ventricles, one lateral ventricle on each hemisphere. Okay, and this 3rd ventricle and 4th ventricle. Each lateral ventricle consists of a central part or body and 3 horns: the anterior horn, the posterior horn, and the inferior horn. The hippocampal gyrus or hippocampus is located within this horn, within the inferior horn, and it forms the floor of the inferior horn of the lateral ventricle. It's important to remember that the hippocampus is also called cornu ammonis, and histologically composed of three regions, including the CA1, CA2, and CA3. This structure is the dentate gyrus, and as you see, the CA3 region has a close relation with the dentate gyrus. The hippocampal formation is involved in learning and memory, and has a critical role in learning and memory. So damage to this formation, damage to the hippocampal gyrus or to the dentate gyrus, results in learning and memory impairment. Remember that in addition to hippocampal formation, other parts of the brain has a function, has a role in learning and memory, and this slide shows the connections between these areas. Okay, as you see, the hippocampal formation sends projections or sends nerve fibers to the mammillary bodies. Mammillary bodies are located in the hypothalamus, and mammillary bodies sends the fibers to the thalamus. The thalamus sends fibers to the cingulate gyrus. Cingulate gyrus sends to the parahippocampal gyrus, and finally the parahippocampal gyrus sends back fibers to the hippocampal formation. This circuit is called circuit of Papez. And this circuit has a critical role in learning and memory. So damage to different parts of this circuit may result in learning and memory impairment. Let's see the Papez, circuit of Papez again on this slide. Here is the hippocampus or hippocampal gyrus, and as I said, it sends projections to the mammillary body via the fornix. This structure is fornix. Okay, here is the mammillary body in the hypothalamus. The mammillary bodies sends fibers or sends projections to the thalamus, and thalamus sends it to the cingulate gyrus. The cingulate gyrus sends to the parahippocampal gyrus, and finally the parahippocampal gyrus sends to the hippocampus or hippocampal gyrus. These connections, this circuit is called circuit of Papez. Dentate gyrus is another part of the hippocampal formation, and as I said, it's located on the medial side of the hippocampus, and has a close relation with the fimbaria, and here between the fimbaria and dentate gyrus you can see a sulcus. This sulcus is the fimbariodentate sulcus. Fimbariodentate sulcus between the fimbaria and dentate gyrus. Okay, let's see the blood supply of the cortex. Our brain is supplied by the branches of the internal carotid artery and basilar artery. Each hemisphere is supplied by three main branches, including the anterior cerebral artery, posterior cerebral artery, and the middle cerebral artery. As you see, the middle cerebral artery mainly supplies the superolateral surface of the hemisphere. The anterior cerebral artery and the middle cerebral artery originates from the internal carotid artery, while the posterior cerebral artery is a branch from the basilar artery. Okay, let's study one by one. The anterior cerebral artery, or ACA, anterior cerebral artery, as I said, originates from the internal carotid artery and then enters on the medial surface of the hemisphere and is located in the callosal sulcus here. It has some branches to supply this area. The ACA, or the anterior cerebral artery, gives off 4 main branches, including the medial orbitofrontal branch. This branch enters on the inferior surface of the medial frontal lobe and supplies the rectus gyrus, the olfactory bulb, olfactory tract, and medial part of the orbital gyri. Because of that, it's called medial orbitofrontal branch. This branch is the frontopolar, and as you see, it supplies the anterior part of the frontal lobe. Here the ACA, or anterior cerebral artery, splits into 2 final branches. This branch is the callosomarginal. It's called callosomarginal branch because it extends from the corpus callosum to the margin or border of the hemisphere, and is called the callosomarginal branch. And this branch is the pericallosal branch, or pericallosal artery, and as you see, this branch supplies the cingulate gyrus and the corpus callosum. Which functional areas are supplied by the anterior cerebral artery? As I said, the branches of the ACA supplies the anterior end of the frontal lobe, and as you know, here we've got the prefrontal area, which is responsible for personality. And as I said in previous lesson, damage to this area results in ebolia, or changes in personality. So occlusion or obstruction of the ACA, anterior cerebral artery, may result in the ebolia. And also, as you see, the branches of the ACA supplies the paracentral lobule, and we know that the paracentral lobule is responsible for movement in the lower limb because it's part of the primary motor area. So damage to this lobule results in the plagia in the opposite side, the plagia in the lower limb. And also the posterior part of the paracentral lobule is responsible for sensation or sensory information from foot. Therefore, occlusion or obstruction of the anterior cerebral artery may result in the ebolia, and also plagia and sensory loss in the foot or lower limb of the opposite side. Middle cerebral artery, or MCA, is another branch from the internal carotid artery, and as you see, this artery turns laterally to enters in depth of the lateral sulcus and is located on the insula, is located on the insular cortex and supplies the insula. As you see, several branches are originates from the MCA, and the MCA or middle cerebral artery gives off several branches to supply the frontal lobe, parietal lobe, and temporal lobe. This branch, located in the central sulcus, is called the central branch. This branch is the precentral branch because it's located in the precentral sulcus. Post-central branch or post-Rolandic branch because it's located in the post-central sulcus. Yeah, and these branches are called the temporal branches because they supplies the temporal lobe. Here we've got the ascending frontal branch and also the lateral orbitofrontal branch. So remember that the medial orbitofrontal branch, is a branch from the anterior cerebral artery, but the lateral orbitofrontal branch is a branch from the MCA or medial cerebral artery. This artery, the MCA artery, supplies several functional areas. For example, as you see, it supplies the transverse temporal gyrus, and this gyrus is and in this gyrus we've got the auditory area. So occlusion or obstruction of the MCA may result in problems in hearing, okay, because the area auditory area is damaged. Also the precentral and postcentral gyri are damaged after occlusion of the MCA, and as you know, the precentral gyrus is a part of the primary motor area, which is responsible for movements in the upper limb and head and neck. And also the postcentral gyrus is damaged, and this gyrus is a part of the primary somatosensory area, and the neurons in the postcentral gyrus are responsible for sensation or sensory information from the upper limb and head and neck. So occlusion of this artery may result in plegia or paralysis in the upper limb and head and neck, and also loss of sensory in the upper limb and head and neck. This artery also in the left hemisphere or in dominant hemisphere supplies the speech areas. As you know, we've got motor speech area or Broca's area on the frontal lobe, and the sensory speech area or Wernicke's area on the temporal lobe, and both of them are supplied by the branches of the middle cerebral artery, and occlusion of this artery may result in aphasia. Aphasia means inability in speech. And the PCA or posterior cerebral artery, this artery originates from the basilar artery, not from the internal carotid artery, okay? The PCA originates from the basilar artery. and as you see, turn back and lies on the parahippocampal gyrus, give off branches to parahippocampal gyrus, and also, as you see, it has branches to supply the temporal lobe, inferior surface of the temporal lobe. These branches are called temporal branches. Here it gives off a branch to the posterior part of the corpus callosum, and this branch is called the posterior pericallosal. So remember that the pericallosal artery is a branch from the anterior cerebral artery, but the posterior pericallosal artery is a branch from the posterior cerebral artery, or PCA. And finally, as you see, the PCA is split into two final branches. This branch, located in the parieto-occipital sulcus, is called the parieto-occipital branch because it's located on the parieto-occipital sulcus. Okay, and this branch is the calcarine branch, or calcarine artery, because it's located in the calcarine sulcus. These branches, as you see, supply the occipital lobe, and as you know, the occipital lobe contains the visual areas. So occlusion of the PCA, or posterior cerebral artery, may result in anopia or anopsia. And as you know, anopia means loss of vision. Okay, brain vascular involvement results in a stroke. The strokes are classified into two categories: the ischemic stroke and the hemorrhagic stroke. An ischemic stroke occurs after occlusion and artery. Okay, occlusion or obstruction of an artery results in damage the part of the cortex and leads to a stroke, ischemic stroke. This kind of stroke is called the ischemic stroke, and on the CT scan of the brain, you will see the damaged area, ischemic area, more gray than the healthy parts of the brain. Okay, this gray part shows an ischemic stroke in the brain, while in the CT scan of a patient with hemorrhagic stroke, you will see the damaged area more white than the healthy parts of the brain. Okay, because here we've got hematoma. Okay, and hemorrhagic stroke occurs due to rupture of the artery. Rupture of an artery leads to hemorrhagic stroke. Okay, thank you for your attention. Have a good time.